Rifled firearms are basically regarded as, whenever we are talking about the type of weapons that have grooved interiors, and in such grooved interiors, basically the bullet is moving out in a spiral motion, and it's basically gaining the acceleration and the velocity. So it is going to be having a high velocity bullet when it enters the atmosphere, and when it is moving under the gravity, it is basically going to have a spiral and a forward motion, and this spiral and forward motion is basically going to accelerate the velocity of the bullet, and the amount of the damage that it is going to cause after the impact with the human body is also going to be great. So basically all of these phenomena are interlinked and they're directly proportional to each other. So all of this is again very important. So we are talking about the rifled firearms over here and the types of the wounds that these rifled firearms can cause in the human body. Now, talking about the contact wounds and the back spatter. So in this section, basically we'll be dealing with this back spatter phenomena. It's basically a phenomena when the tissues as well as the blood, some of these enter the with the back splatter and they enter the shotgun or the rifled firearm. It is basically going to be known as the back spatter phenomena. Then we are also going to discuss what is an abrasion collar over here, and the grease ring, which is also a very common phenomena seen in the rifled firearms particularly. Then we'll talk about the bullet wounds in the bone. So how a bone can be affected after the entry of the bullet. It is going to be discussed over here in detail in this third section. Now, first of all, we'll be discussing the wounds from the rifled weapons. They vary according to the velocity. So again, it's very important that we discuss what kind of a velocity the bullet had when it was moving in a projectile motion. So as you can see, this is basically a stellate injury that has occurred. And this stellate injury is due to the fact that the tissues lie in close contact with the bone. So all these phenomena are again very important to discuss. Now, the multiple wounds in close succession. So there can be multiple firearm injuries, and in succession they can cause a lot of damage. And these multiple wounds can be more damaging to the human body, especially in the abdominal or the thoracic region, because a lot of vital organs can be damaged in these regions. And the striking from the two muzzles is again very important. This basically is included in the compound injuries that can be caused due to the rifled firearms over here. Now, the contact wounds. So it's again very important that we discuss what kind of wounds will occur after the rifled firearm is in contact with the human body. Over the deeper tissues, for example, the limbs and the abdomen, the shape of the wounds would be small, circular wounds. So this is basically the shape. They'll be smaller in size and they'll be circular in the shape. And the blackening of the immediate edges is again very important. This is basically the sooting phenomena that was also seen in the shotguns. So some of the phenomena are basically common for the shotguns as well as the rifled firearms. So it can be sometimes quite confusing. And then we have the flecking with the soot in the tissues. That is again the blackening phenomena, as well as the reddish discharge due to the carbon monoxide that is mixed with the haemoglobin and the myoglobin. There is also the sooting phenomena, that is the blackening discharge over here. Now, the areola of reddening. So there's basically an area of reddening seen, and there is bruising and the muzzle imprint. So again, at the entry wound, if there is a close contact, the muzzle impression is going to be there, and that is basically going to refer towards the close contact injuries. And then we have the radial skin tears. So there'll be parallel tears, and as seen over here in the radial, there are basically radial tears over here. It's basically they are projecting from the entry wound. So they are radial in nature. And then the periosteum detachment. It's again very important. If the skin is in close contact with the bone, as in the skull, then there will be periosteum detachment seen. The soiling if loose contact, and the rust stains are again very important, and they're commonly found in the contact wounds. So now we are talking about the back spatter phenomena. What is basically the back spatter phenomena? It is defined as the blood and the tissue fragments enter the muzzle, sometimes penetrating for several centimeters, and this is being called as the back spatter phenomena. So basically, the muzzle will have a lot of interior interior contents of the wound, and that are going to be basically of significance, and evidence is going to be collected from these muzzle fragments. So they are going to be very important over here. The pieces of the skin, hair, and the adipose tissues are sometimes found in the muzzle, and the blood and the tissue may soil hand or arm. So all of these contents are going to be found in the muzzle when we basically inspect the muzzle in detail. So the close range wounds have their own characteristics. Basically, they include the circular wounds. The shape is basically circular, and the tearing is due to the gas intrusion, unlikely, and the signing of the hair, that is the burning and the shriveling of the hair, is again very important whenever we are talking about the close range wounds, because the burning phenomena or the heat is going to be transferred only when the shotgun is in close contact with the human body. The clubbing of the hair is again very important, and the soot or the smoke soiling is seen in such a close contact wound. Powder tattooing is basically a phenomena, that is basically the burnt phenomena around the main entry wound due to the soot, and that is basically known as the powder tattooing phenomena. The minute flakes of unburnt propellant or inert filler on the skin are again very important, and they're very crucial whenever we are writing down an autopsy report and commenting on a firearm injury. So the abrasion collar is again very important, and it can be seen clearly over here in this diagram. And it has its significance because it is basically pointing out the type of the weapon which was used. The skin immediately around the central hole is discolored, and the so-called abrasion collar or the contusion ring is again very important whenever we are talking about the close contact wounds. Due to the inversion of the skin, this abrasion collar is formed. The epidermis is abraded by the friction. The back spattering phenomena is also seen whenever this abrasion collar is formed, and the skin bulges and stretches conically outwards in this phenomena. The drying up of the border zone is also seen in such patterns whenever this abrasion collar is formed. The grease ring can also be seen in a lot of cases. Now, what happens is the abrasion collar or its inner parts may be blackened due to the overlying sooty remnants. When they're wiped off by the bullet when hitting the uncovered skin, the finding is called as the grease ring. So it's basically when we remove the abrasion ring, we come across the grease ring, and it's again very important. It's a reliable sign of entrance. So that's how basically we are going to differentiate between the entry wound and the exit wound. If it is absent, the muzzle is clean. Bruising can be seen alongside the grease ring, and no soot or powder beyond the variable distance can be seen in such cases. The direction of discharge of the gun is again also very important. The shape of abrasion ring is very crucial over here. At right angles, basically it is producing a circular zone, and the discoloration of the skin is also seen. And at oblique angles, there is an elliptical or an oval mark, and it is shelved out or undercut, and the muscular contractions are also seen in such a case. The shelving of the deep tissues is again seen in such oblique angles. Bullet wounds on the bone is again very important. Here you can see a ring of contusion that is followed by this ecchymotic ring, and then we have this bullet wipe over here. The pattern of cratering is very important and is seen over here. The fissuring or the tunneling is again very important over here, and the cuminated fractures, if they are present, they have to be documented in detail and the autopsy report. The destruction of the skull and the shelving or the depressed fractures, if any, they have to be documented in detail. If there is any kind of cranial damage, that is also be documented over here. CT scans and radiographs are the mainstay of investigations over here. So in this section, basically, we dealt with the rifled firearms and how are these weapons more important, why are they important, and what kind of injuries they can cause. That is the end of this section. Thank you for watching sqadia.com.